Be seated. This is the belief to some that our deeds and our action can lead us to eternal damnation or to eternal reward. Because what we just heard and what we just read this morning, that in the end of the day, in the end of days, the Lord will sit on his throne and gathered all the people from all nations, and he will place the sheep on his right and the goat on his left, and he will give the reward to the people who are sitting on his right. Because the Lord said to them, when I was hungry and thirsty, you give me food and you give me drink. When I was a stranger and naked, you welcome me and you give me some clothing. When I was ill and in prison, you take care of me. And the disciples or the people was answering, Lord, how come that you are God and you're thirsty and you're hungry? You are God and you are a stranger and have no clothing? How come, Lord, that you are the King of the universe, the King of the world, and you are God, then you are ill and in prison? And Jesus simply answered to them, quoting our first reading. And it says in our first reading that you have to love your neighbor as you love yourself. He said, whatever you do for the least of all of these, of brothers of mine, you did it for me. It is our act or motive or expression of not loving our neighbors as we do love ourselves would send us to eternal separation from God. So it is not more on the details that, oops, akong nahigugma akong igsuon, napakaon ako siya, ako siya napainom, pero wala ko natawag sa nina. Dobi, partial lang akong love sa iya. It's not more on like that. Tungod kay, whether we like it or not, we are still in the journey. And some people are really good in one side, but they're struggling to the other side. Example, they are good with taking care of others, to those who are ill, to those who are in prison, but they don't have the capacity to give extra clothing. But they have that desire to do so. Would they also go to hell for not doing, giving up clothing? The bottom line here is it's simplified in the summary of the law by loving God and by loving your neighbors. We cannot say that we love God and we cannot love our neighbors. So, my dear friend, in this season of Lent, we are being urged and we are being challenged to go extra mile. If we were not able to experience giving some extra clothing or giving food to the hungry, then it's about time. And you might say, oh, well, this food is just enough for me and my family. It's about time to do some sacrifice for the love of God, for the sake of loving our brothers and sisters. Lisod ba ya, labi nang naanad ka nga kaning dalo ba? Kaya usahay manggod, ganahan lang tamang hatag basta ang tao kaning arangan niya makabalos. Maghatag ko ni kay naman ko'y benepisyo pud makuha. Then grabe na po yung hinataga na ako, uwaw na kayo. Pero how about people nga nabitaw mi amigo diya, bag-o lang na preso. Then we were really moved to compassion because wagid sila, literally wagid sila makaon. Then magbaklar po sila para lang makatrabaho o niya makaon. Kung imong suma total usahay hinay kayo og tinabawan nya sa puton ka pero it's not more on his labor. It's more on how would you take care of him. Because if you cannot take care of your brother who are in need, who are thirsty, who are hungry, then you don't have that audacity to tell God, Lord, I do love my brothers as I love myself. So, ako ba usahay, to be honest, there were many times in our lives, in my life, nga medyo maulaw ta. Labi na sa Cagayan, ka na mag-drive ka, na yung mga tao diya sa dalan nga, murag mamaligya, murag magwa na sa palimos, or magtrapo-trapo sa imong windshield, sa sakyanan, ana ba? Usahay, mag-evaluate nga ato, i-justify ba ang atong pagkalaugan nga, naa ba yung balaod ba yung nga kuan? Na ba yung balaod nga bawal manghatag sa dalan kay dakpunta? Pero ang tinuod ko, di ka gusto hatag, or laog lagi ka, inana. Or asisiguro ka Sinsilio, inana ko, 100 ba Lord, oy? 500 mo kwarta, 1,000, next time na lang, ana. Katura akong giri-giri itong mga coins ba? Sometimes I feel nga guilty usahay inana kana nay mga mangayo nga tao, nay mga luoy. Kay kung naa lang siguro si Mother Teresa, matunaw siguro ka sa iyang gugma, sa iyang isig katao, iyang ipakita. How did she take care of the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the homeless? How did she takes care or took care the ill and in prison? You will melt like wax in front of her. Maulaw ka sa iyang gibuhat tungkol kay grabe kayo ang iyang gugma nga iyang ipakita. And it was so literal. And Jesus Christ meant it literally on this parable, on this reading that we just heard and read this morning. He meant it literally. You have to feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, welcome the strangers. Kita karon maglisod naman tag welcome sa mga stranger. Kay atong nauna kani nga tao kay daghan upatik, kriminal gini ba. Kuan ni kaning basing kawatan no? We have just prejudice pero dato gali daghan patik ingon dita nga art na passion. Ang ayan. Pero pag pobre gali daghan patik, adik ning tawanan ni. So it's not easy. But the whole point there is not actually allow him to sleep on your bedroom, pero you welcome him. Wala ni mo siya gi-embarrass, wala ni mo siya gi-maltrato, pero imo siyang gitrato sa mga kamo igsuon. Listen ba na? To be honest, it's so hard to give due importance to someone nga imo siyang isipon nga sama gid sa imong igsuon. It's really struggling in my part kay there are some people that you don't really like, no? Kasi naging mga tao nga first impression pala nimo di aganahan. Pero the Bible is telling us, or God Himself teaching us to love them as we love our brothers or as we love ourselves. That is the message of this gospel and this Lent. Please stand.